In this video, we're going to go over homework problems 8 through 11 in your practice exam number 2. In this series of problems, we're using the same data. Auto Dealers Incorporated sells a handmade automobile as its only product. Each automobile is identical, however, they can be distinguished by their unique ID number. At the beginning of 2024, Auto Dealers had 3 cars in inventory as follows. So over here in Excel, I put down the 3 cars that are in the beginning inventory and totaled up the total cost of the beginning inventory, $183,000. Then they gave us the purchases and the sales, so I wrote those down as well under the purchases and sales. So I wrote down the cost of every car, selling price, and we can see that 3 of them, 213, 216, and 219 are not sold by the end of the month. And I added up the total cost of purchases, $615,300. So now I started to put in the basic inventory equation. So we can see now that whichever problem we use, our beginning inventory is $183,000. And our purchases are $615,300. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our method to calculate either the ending inventory or the cost of goods sold, and once we have one or the other, we'll be able to get the final one, because again, this is an equation, A plus B minus C equals D. So once we get any 3 of them, we can get the 4th either by adding and subtracting or by algebra. So in problem 8, we're supposed to calculate the ending inventory and cost of goods sold, assuming the company uses the specific identification inventory method. So we can see here that if we use the specific inventory identification method, right over here we can put our ending inventory, and it's going to be the cost of all of those that are not sold. So I can see over here that 213 is not sold, and its cost is $64,500. I can see number 216 is also not sold, and its cost is $70,500. And finally, number 219 is not sold. We can see that every other one has a selling price. That cost is $75,000. We don't know the selling price because it's not sold. So if I just sum up those 3 numbers, I will get an ending inventory of $210,000. So I'm just going to put the $210,000 in the ending inventory. And now all we have to do is take our beginning inventory, add our purchases, and subtract the ending inventory to come down to cost of goods sold. So using specific identification, we've decided that our ending inventory is $210,000 and our cost of goods sold $588,300. Now let's move on to problem number 9. In problem number 9, we're using exactly the same data, but we're told to calculate ending inventory and cost of goods sold, assuming FIFO and a periodic inventory system. So first, if we remember, periodic means that we give a cost to the units in the ending inventory. In this case, we were told that 3 weren't sold. It doesn't matter for periodic which 3, but we know that we have 3 units in our ending inventory, the 3 that are not sold. So remember, FIFO is an assumption. We don't care how the units actually flowed. We're going to assume this FIFO cost flow. So because we're using periodic, FIFO tells us first in, first out. And remember, the out refers to sales. So translated to English, we're going to say that we're going to assume that the oldest are sold first. So our ending inventory is going to be assumed, again, we're not going to use the specific identification, but we're just going to assume that our ending inventory is comprised of the 3 newest units, because we first sold the units in the beginning inventory, then we sold another 6 more, and we're just left with these 3. So we're going to assume of our 3 units in the ending inventory, they're comprised of 217, 218, and 219. I'm going to pick up the costs of those: 72,000, 72,300, 75,000. So using periodic inventory and FIFO, we're just going to assume that our ending inventory is 219,300. So I put it up in the basic inventory equation, and to calculate cost of goods sold, I take my beginning inventory, add my purchases, subtract my ending inventory, and I get a cost of goods sold of $579,000. So under FIFO and periodic, ending inventory 219,300, cost of goods sold 579,000. Okay, now let's move on to number 10. In problem 10, we're using exactly the same data, but now we're supposed to calculate ending inventory and cost of goods sold, assuming LIFO and a periodic inventory system. So once again, we have to know our job. With a periodic inventory system, what we have to do is we have to give a cost to the units in the ending inventory. Since they told us that 3 were not sold at the end of the year, and once again, we know that there are specific units that are not sold, but LIFO is a cost flow assumption. So we're going to use our LIFO cost flow assumption, and with LIFO, that stands for last in, first out. And remember, the out refers to sales. So in this case, we're supposed to assume that the newest items are sold first. So we have to take that leap of logic that if the newest items are sold first, then the oldest items remain in ending inventory. So we're going to figure out which are our 3 oldest items, and our 3 oldest items are from our beginning inventory. So even though we know specifically which ones are sold, we're going to assume that 203, 207, and 210, our 3 oldest, were sold, and I know that's 183,000, 60,000, 60,000, and 63,000. Add those 3 together, and we get 183,000. So we're going to assume that our ending inventory is 183,000, and once again, calculate cost of goods sold exactly the same way. Take our beginning inventory, add our purchases, subtract our ending inventory, and come down to cost of goods sold 615,300. So under LIFO periodic, our ending inventory would be assumed to be 183,000, cost of goods sold 615,300. And then finally, we're going to go on to the final problem, number 11. With problem 11, we're supposed to calculate ending inventory and cost of goods sold, assuming the average cost method in a periodic inventory system. So, with average cost, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate our average price. Because we're working with a periodic inventory system, we're only going to calculate that average price once at the end of the year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my beginning inventory and I'm going to add my purchases in dollars and in number of units. So first I'll put in the units and then I'll put in the dollars. So in this case, we already know that our beginning inventory is $183,000. Oh, put that in the wrong cell. $183,000, and that represents 3 units. Then we purchased another 9 units that cost us a total of $615,300. So for our average price, we're just going to take the total of the two and we're going to divide. So before I calculate the average price, I'm going to calculate the total for the units. And by the way, this is goods available for sale. So I'm going to calculate the total of the units and the total goods available for sale in dollars. Now to calculate my average price, I'm just going to take the goods available for sale in dollars and divide by the goods available for sale in units. So I'm going to take 798,300 and divide by 12. So if I do that, 798,300 goods available for sale in dollars divided by goods available for sale in units, I get $66,525 as the average price. So now, because it's periodic, I just value my ending inventory as the 3 units in ending inventory multiplied by the average price of $66,525. So if I take 3 units, multiply each one by the average price of $66,525, I'm going to get a total of $199,575. So using average cost, I'm going to assume that my ending inventory is $199,575, and once again calculate cost of goods sold the exact same way. Take my beginning inventory, add my purchases, and subtract my ending inventory to come down to cost of goods sold. So average cost method, periodic, ending inventory 199,575, cost of goods sold 598,725. And there we've now finished numbers 8 through 11.